言うことは一つだけ。絶対負けねえ。
How's it going, everybody? This is me, Nothing XS. We're here to talk about the new characters that were just released today. Or really, the last characters from the gacha, the character from the current event, and the character that was released today, which is Taro Misaki, returning artist. I want to talk about Taro Misaki, returning artist, and I have a and I have a sort of like a little presentation I want to show you guys, so you can guys see more or less what I think of the unit. So, without further ado, we're gonna start talking about it. See, obviously here we can see his stats. His stats are pretty good. He has a 6,452 dribble, which makes him a pretty competent dribble. It puts him somewhere in like the, I want to say like the upper 8,000, 9,000 dribbling. He's a 10k shooter club and a 10k passer club. Slightly better at pass. He's the pretty strong passer, and so we're gonna talk a little bit about the unit himself. Here we see that he's the best toughness passer in the game. His 10,570 pass, it basically, he really is the best toughness passer in the game, and he's the best toughness enabler because he has very good defensive stats, and with the 4th best passing, that makes him a really big headache for basically any player that's trying to like get around him or try to deal with him. Obviously his high passing makes him difficult to deal with on defense, and his pretty good defensive skills make him sort of a nightmare for people who are trying to do any amount of offense and run into him. He can be played an attacking midfielder or a defensive midfielder. I personally prefer him at a defensive midfielder, but obviously your mileage may vary. Obviously also he is a pretty decent shooter, but I think it's kind of a waste to make him a shooter, even though his S skill is a shot. I would give him A elegant tackle, A magnificent interception. I'd replace his A pass with the S pass, and then I'd probably replace A golden duo with a magnificent dribble. I would probably try to pull off A golden duo in case you change your mind later, but with a dribble and a pass, he'll probably be good enough. I would probably put him at defensive midfielder and not at attacking midfielder, and I would leave, for example, Football Legend or another version of Tsubasa to be doing the golden duos or any duos in general, and maybe like a Napoleon if you are running a Napoleon. So obviously the pros are that he makes every toughest unit in your team better because of his high stats and strong passing abilities. And really the only cons he has are that he has an S main skill, which is a shot. Obviously the S part is not the bad part. It's the fact that it is an S shot. And also the fact that he kind of needs Tsubasa to be good. All Misakis kind of needs Tsubasa. It's just a fact of life. That's the kind of character he is. He is an enabler and a defender. Enabler meaning that he makes the rest of your team better, and his roles, when I say roles here, enabler and defense, I mean enables the rest of your team and is good at defending. I think he is an SS tier character, and if you were going to go for broke, I would say yes. This is a character to, if you're going to wail, this is a character to wail for. And so, moving on. Let's talk about Brian Kluever. Brian Kluever is pretty decent. He is from the current banner, the current gacha banner. He is a 7200 shooter with 6,331 power. That puts him more or less at the 10,500 mark. He's pretty decent at tackling and intercepting, and he comes with a tackle and an intercept. He has break shot, break tackle, swift interception. Swift interception, not crazy, but break tackle pretty decent. Both of them kind of inexpensive defensive skills, and he has stamina killer and a very powerful passive. Now, the thing about Brian Kluever is that primarily he's a shooting midfielder. I know it says that you can run him as a forward, but you don't want to run him as a forward. The reason for that is that his talents are kind of wasted at that position. He has defensive skills, and he wants to use them constantly, and he also has stamina killer. Primarily, you want to like force the opposing midfielder to have to spend stamina to get around him, and that's basically what you should be doing. Also, since he has a shot that doesn't decay at distance, or rather it decays less at distance, and he has stamina killer 15%, basically you can let it rip from far away against enemy goalkeepers immediately after stealing the ball, and that will harass the goalkeeper very much so, and also drain him of stamina a lot faster. It might be worth teaching him the A direct break shot EX, but I don't think it's a great idea. He's actually one of the weird characters where you don't actually have to give him any other skills other than what he starts with, and you're okay. You could give him like the dribble or whatever else you want if you farm it, but it's not completely necessary. Also, he has a really strong team skill, which is plus 15% Europe, plus 5% red, or I think it's 7 or 10% red. I'm not entirely sure. I don't remember 100%. Obviously, he was right there on the screen, so you can always go and take a look. He's a nice dupe to get too if you get DC Brian, and Stamina Killer is routinely undervalued as a passive. A lot of people think Stamina Killer sucks. Everyone that thinks that Stamina Killer sucks doesn't know how to play this game or doesn't understand the value of it. And I will defend that one to the grave. He also has pretty good defensive abilities. He's not a primary defender, but if you max out his defensive skills with his high defensive stats, or actually just decent defensive stats, he will really annoy opposing midfielders and opposing forwards. The problem is that he's not a ball circulator. You really can't circulate the ball even though you have him in attacking midfield, and since he sucks at dribbling and passing, and really his use pattern is real predictable. You know what he's going to do. Take the ball, he's going to shoot. To limit break him right here, tackle intercept, shot power, and obviously 22-3 is the optimal split for stats. Moving on over to Franz Schuster. Franz Schuster is really, he's just he's like Golden Duo Misaki, but maybe not as good, you know. But let's talk about him. Obviously, pretty good passer, 7250 with 6480 technique. That actually makes him kind of like a high-ish 10,000. Not really crazy at anything else, but he's a decent tackler and a decent interceptor, and he has a speed to kind of back it up. He also has decent dribble, but don't expect him to shoot, block, or anything of the sort. He comes with teamwork combo and a shot. The shot is inexplicable, and a straight tackle. If you play him with Margus, he gets 15% to his stats, which is really nice, and he gives you green European players 15%, and skill type regular players, I believe, just 5. So he's part of that club, basically. So what does that mean for us? Well, it means that he's an alarmingly good passer in green. Unfortunately, he's a sea of good passers in green. If you're running a green European project, you want him. And you need him if you're stuck playing World Cup Margus at forward. And if you also have World Cup Schneider up there, then you really want him. He's a character you really want. He's obviously also a competent pass cutter with a good 1-2 and access to a Dream Pot farmed pass, which is a Dream Pot that we got earlier. So you might have an S pass for him. I would give him that pass, keep his tackle, give him an A interception, and think of what you're gonna do with the A shot. I would pull it off and give him something else. He's basically Fisher Price, my first green Misaki. So if you don't have a Golden Duo Misaki, you do now if you got this guy. He also enables green Europe 45%, which is great. Obviously, again, great passer. Great if you have Margus on the team. If you just have Europeans, he's still good. Access to the S pass. And now if you don't have Margus, though, what do? I mean, you're going to feel bad playing him, really. There's just so many other options that you might want to be running instead. Obviously, if you got Golden Duo Misaki, you'll be hard-pressed to run this guy, although that character also does need a side character, that side character being Tsubasa. But I feel like everyone has some kind of a pocket Tsubasa at this point, so who cares? Anyways, moving on. We're going to talk about Michele Yamada, the defensive super spider, was the first actual gacha goalkeeper we've got in a while. Pretty decent catch power and technique, which puts him at about 10,000. He's one of the new members of the 10K catch club. It's just him, 10K save club. It's really just him and who was it? Like someone else is in the 10K catch club base, and I think it's just Green Ken. He has spider catch, which is unfortunately kind of weak, but he does have this critical rate up times 5. He comes with extreme awakening of Japanese players, agility, so 15 and 5 to agility blue and all blue. And that's really all you could say much about this character. This character is basically just Super Murasaki, except he's a catcher instead of a puncher. He's a goalkeeper, so obviously his role is a goalkeeper. I think he's about B tier. He's one of the 2 members, obviously, I just covered out of the 10K City Club. Since S Spider Catch really sucks, because it's just S one-handed catch with another name, and which just means that you can't feed him copies of Gino and Susalsa. He's a desirable backup keeper if you have a Blue Japan team with 2017 Ken. Otherwise, if he's going to be your main keeper in Blue Japan, 45%, it makes him kind of weird, because he is usable because he has 500% to his critical rate, but he's very unreliable. Again, he's basically just better Murasaki. Now, the cool thing, though, is that he has access to S, A, B, and C catches. So there is that, and obviously his team skill is nothing to sneeze at. If you need that team skill, you need that team skill, you know? You'll know it. 15% to Blue Japan, especially if you already have Hyuga and Jito. I mean, obviously, you're going to want that. But again, none of his saving skills are particularly strong. His limit break is a standard puncher's limit break. If you don't know, I mean, catcher's limit break, sorry. If you don't know how to limit break goalkeepers by now, it's their main stat and the 2 supporting stats. Unless you have a mixed goalkeeper, he really isn't one. So now for our final character is going to be our event character, Juan Diaz. Now Juan Diaz is a green automatic pass cutter. As you can see, auto intercept enhanced 50%. And he comes with a pretty powerful 360 intercept that you should be farming right now. He unfortunately has this crazy tackle that's crazy expensive, but kind of strong for it, but it's still a 425 tackle for only 325, which makes me gawk at what the S tackle must cost. And a drive pass, which is nice. He does have pretty high intercept stats, which put him at like the 10k-ish, high 10k-ish, maybe low 11k. I think it's actually just high 10k. And obviously he's green, so he's gonna get pretty decent buffs. He is South American, so if you have like Alberto, for example, on the bench, he's gonna get stronger from that. So what else can we say about him, honestly? Well, listen, in a world of good midfielders, what is the point of this guy? Sure, he brings that A80 swift interception, and that's 360 power for 320 stamina, and you can use it automatically, which does make him really scary. But frankly, there's just not a lot of places to put him. Sure, if you're trying to make a clog midfield, and that's what his role is, clogger. When I say a clogger as a role, it means that his entire purpose is to slow down the midfield. And by denying wide passing up the middle, and almost anywhere you put him, right? If you put him with like Auto Cut, Nachireza, Dream Collection, Masao Kazuo, and 2017 Misaki, you have 3 midfielders with 50% pass cut, and then 2 defensive midfielders with 30%. So that's pretty crazy, but really, at the end of the day, really, his pros are he has an auto cut, and he doesn't suck at passing the ball, and his cons are that the green midfield is a clogged, full, like, crazy, like, contested part of the game. Now, should you farm him? Sure, why not? If you get him, you're in there. You have an extra interesting experiment. But other than that, don't bother. But farm him, why not? To limit break him, throw 25 into speed and then break his pass, intercept, and technique. I know he has a tackle, but you're going to probably rip it off for the B version, and you're going to forget about it. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you found that useful. Whoa, my voice broke there. And I'll see you guys later. I was going to do a stream after the collab game station, but frankly, there wasn't really anything to say after it because they didn't really cover a whole lot. So thanks guys for tuning in, and see you all later.